My stepdaughter looked me dead in the eyes and said, "You're not walking me down the aisle. I want my real dad there." Her words hit like a sledgehammer, splintering the years I'd spent building a life for her. I didn't yell, didn't beg. I just nodded, my jaw tight, and said, "Fine, Sarah. Your call." Then I walked away, pulled the plug on the wedding funds, and let the chips fall. My name's Mike Sullivan, 46, a landscaper from a small town in Pennsylvania. I've been shaping lawns and planting trees for over 2 decades. The kind of work that leaves dirt under your nails and an ache in your bones. It's not flashy, but it's honest. By 28, I'd saved enough to buy a fixer-upper house in a quiet suburb outside Pittsburgh. No mortgage, just grit. My brother Dan and I started Sullivan Landscapes, a business we grew from a beat-up truck and a couple of shovels into a crew of 10, with contracts for schools, churches, and half the cul-de-sacs in Allegheny County. It wasn't a fortune, but it was enough to build a life. I met Karen at a community picnic when I was 32. She was 30, a single mom with a 9-year-old daughter, Sarah, and a divorce that left scars you could see in her tired eyes. Her ex, Greg, was a deadbeat who'd bailed when Sarah was 4, sending sporadic texts and a $20 bill every other Christmas, always with some half-assed excuse. Karen was scraping by, working as a dental receptionist, driving a rattling Chevy Malibu that sounded like it was coughing up its last breath. Sarah was a shy kid, all knees and elbows, clutching a dog-eared sketchbook filled with drawings of horses. I'll never forget the first time I met her. She peeked out from behind Karen's denim skirt, her brown eyes sizing me up like I was a stray dog she wasn't sure about. Karen knelt down, her voice soft but steady. "Sarah, honey, this is Mike. Say hi." Sarah shook her head, burying her face in her mom's side, her sketchbook pressed tight against her chest. We started dating, slow and careful. Karen was guarded, and I didn't push. About 6 months in, something shifted. Sarah fell off a swing at the park, scraped her knee bad enough to need stitches. Karen was stuck at work, and the school called Meme, not her grandma, not her aunt. I was listed as Sarah's emergency contact. That hit me hard, like a brick to the ribs. I dropped my rake, drove to the school in my work boots, dirt still caked on my jeans, and found Sarah in the nurse's office, tears streaking her face. "Hey, kiddo," I said, kneeling beside her. "Looks like you took on that swing and lost." "Huh?" She giggled through her sniffles, and I cleaned her up, got her to the ER, and held her hand while the doctor stitched her knee. As I tucked her into bed that night, she grabbed my wrist and whispered, "Thanks." My throat caught. That moment wasn't just a bandage on a knee, it was a promise. Karen and I got serious after that. When Sarah was 10, she started calling me Dad. Not all the time, just in quiet moments when I helped her with math homework or when we grilled burgers in the backyard. Every dad was like a spark in my chest. I hadn't planned on kids, but Sarah was mine. We got married when she was 11, a small ceremony at a local church. Sarah insisted on being the flower girl, tossing petals with a grin so big it lit up the room. She hugged me after, whispering, "This is our wedding, Dad." The guests chuckled, but to me, it was gospel. Sarah wasn't just Karen's daughter. She was my daughter, the one I chose. Those early years were the best of my life. Saturday mornings were our ritual, Sarah and me at a diner called Rusty's, her drowning pancakes in syrup while I sipped coffee and sketched landscaping ideas on napkins. "Dad, can we plant a rose garden in the backyard?" she'd ask, her eyes bright. "Sure thing, kid," I'd say, knowing it'd be a mess of thorns and dirt, but we'd make it ours. She'd hug me, sticky fingers and all, and I'd feel like the luckiest guy alive. When she was 12, I started a college fund, squirreling away every extra dollar. By the time she was 16, it was at $25,000. My crew teased me, called me a saint for raising another man's kid. I hated that phrase. Sarah wasn't another man's. She was mine. Then high school hit, and the cracks started showing. It was small at first, Sarah rolling her eyes when I asked about her day, spending hours in her room with her phone. I told myself it was normal teenage stuff. But then she stopped calling me Dad. It started at dinner one night. "Mike, can you pass the salt?" she said, not looking up from her screen. It felt like a punch I didn't see coming. "Sure," I said, keeping my voice even, but it stung. Things got worse. At the mall, she turned to Karen and say, "Can Mike get me those sneakers? Everyone's wearing them. Like I was just the bank." I pulled her aside once, kept it calm. "Sarah, why are you calling me Mike? I'm your dad." She shrugged, muttering, "Whatever. You know what I mean." I let it slide, but it was like a splinter under my skin. Karen didn't help. "She's just being a teenager," she'd say, brushing it off. But it wasn't just a phase. Sarah's demands grew: $1,200 sneakers, a new iPhone, a MacBook for school. If I pushed back, Karen swooped in. "She's figuring herself out. Mike, don't be so hard on her." I started tracking the costs, hundreds a month, not counting the house, her car insurance, her art supplies. In return, I got silence, eye rolls, and a vibe like I was a stranger in my own home. The tension built like a storm cloud, heavy and waiting to burst. When Sarah was 17, Greg, her biological dad, reappeared. He'd been gone for years, but suddenly he was texting her, sending her concert tickets, acting like he hadn't ditched her for over a decade. Sarah ate it up, talking about my dad like Greg was some hero. I tried to stay calm, but it burned. One night, I overheard her on the phone. "Mike's so uptight about money," she said, laughing. "My real dad gets me." I stood in the hallway, my fists clenched, feeling like I'd been gutted. Still, I kept showing up, driving her to art classes, paying for her SAT prep, planning for her future. Sarah got engaged at 21, right after graduating college. Her fiancé, Ethan, was a decent guy, a teacher with a steady job. They planned a summer wedding, and I threw myself into it. I'd been saving for years, not just for college but for this moment. The fund was at $40,000 now, enough for a nice wedding venue, catering, the works. Sarah wanted a big day, a barn venue, string lights, a live band. I paid deposits, met with planners, even built a wooden arch for the ceremony myself, sanding it late into the night. Karen and I talked about me walking Sarah down the aisle. Felt right, like the culmination of everything I'd done for her. A month before the wedding, we were at the venue, going over final details. Sarah was quiet, picking at her nails. I thought she was just nervous. Then, at dinner that night, she dropped the bomb. "Mike, I've been thinking," she said, her voice flat. "I want my dad to walk me down the aisle." I froze, my fork halfway to my mouth. "Your dad?" I said, keeping my tone steady. "You mean Greg?" She nodded, not meeting my eyes. "Yeah, he's my real dad. It's important to me." Karen went still, her eyes darting between us. I swallowed hard, the room spinning. "Sarah," I said, slow, "I've been here for you since you were 9. I raised you. I'm paying for this wedding." She shrugged, her voice sharp. "You're not my dad. Mike, you're my stepdad. There's a difference." The air sucked out of the room. Karen reached for my hand, but I pulled away. "Fine," I said, my voice like gravel. "Your call." I stood, walked to my office, and sat there, staring at the wall. The arch I'd built, the deposits I'd paid, the years I'd poured into her, it all felt like ash. That night, I called the venue, the caterer, the band, and canceled everything I'd funded. I transferred the wedding money back to my savings. Karen found me the next morning, her face pale. "Mike, what are you doing? You can't cancel her wedding." I looked at her, my voice cold. "She doesn't want me in it, Karen. I'm not her dad. Remember? Let Greg pay for it." Sarah lost it when she found out. She stormed into the house, screaming, "You're ruining my life. Mike, how could you do this?" I stayed calm, my arms crossed. "You said I'm not your dad, Sarah. Just the guy who pays for stuff. So, I'm done paying. Call Greg." She froze, her eyes wide, but I didn't budge. Karen tried to mediate, her voice shaking. "Mike, she didn't mean it. She's just confused." But I was done. "No, Karen. She meant it. And you let her say it." I filed for divorce the next week. Karen begged me to reconsider, tears streaming. "Think about Sarah," she said. "She needs you." I shook my head. "She needs a checkbook, not me." I moved out, sold the house, and threw myself into the business. Dan and I took on bigger job sparks, community centers, even a golf course. I bought a small cabin in the Poconos, where the only sounds were birds and the wind rustling through pines. Peace, at last. 3 years later, Karen showed up at my door, Sarah in tow. Karen looked worn, her hair streaked with gray. Sarah's engagement had fallen apart after the wedding imploded. She dropped out of grad school, was working odd jobs, and they were struggling to pay rent. "Mike, we need help," Karen said, her voice thin. "We're drowning." Sarah stood behind her, eyes on the ground, her old sketchbook nowhere in sight. I leaned against the doorframe, my heart heavy but firm. "You were right, Sarah," I said, my voice steady. "I'm not your dad. You made that clear." Sarah flinched, her lips trembling, but she didn't speak. Karen reached out, desperate. "Mike, please. She's still your daughter." I shook my head. "No, Karen. She's Greg's daughter. Go ask him." I closed the door, the click echoing like a final note. The fallout came fast. Karen posted online a tearful video with an old photo of me and Sarah at a school art show, her smiling with paint on her cheeks. "He raised my daughter for 12 years, then abandoned us," she captioned it. The comments were brutal. Some called me a monster. Others asked questions Karen dodged. I didn't stay quiet. I posted my own video, calm and clear. I showed receipts, bank statements, canceled checks for Sarah's art classes, braces, college tuition. I played a voicemail from Sarah, age 17, laughing about how Mike's just the money guy. I ended it with her words at the wedding meeting. "You're not my dad, Mike." The post went viral. People tore into Karen and Sarah, calling out their entitlement. Karen deleted her video, but the damage was done. Word spread in town. Karen lost her job at the dental office. Sarah was bussing tables at a diner, her dreams of grad school buried under debt. Dan told me she looked like a ghost, her spark gone. I didn't gloat. I just felt empty, like I'd lost something I could never get back. A year later, at a charity auction for a local park I'd landscaped, Karen showed up, Sarah trailing behind. The crowd hushed as Karen marched toward me, her voice loud. "Mike, you owe us. You walked away from your family." Sarah stood silent, her eyes hollow. I didn't flinch. "Family?" I said, my voice carrying. "I gave you a home, Karen. I gave Sarah a father. You both threw it away." I turned to the crowd. She said I wasn't her dad, just her stepdad. So, I left. That's what she wanted. The silence was heavy. Karen's face crumpled, and Sarah's head jerked up, her eyes wet with something guilt, maybe shame. I looked at Sarah, my voice low. "You chose Greg, Sarah. Live with it." I walked away, the crowd parting like a sea. Months later, I saw Sarah one last time, outside the diner where she worked. She was wiping down tables, her apron stained, her face tired. Our eyes met through the window, and for a moment, I saw the little girl with the sketchbook, calling me dad. Then I saw the woman who'd pushed me away. She froze, like she wanted to say something, but I didn't wait. I gave her a nod, turned, and walked away. She was right. I wasn't her dad. I was the man who'd tried to be, and she'd made her choice. I never looked back. A year after the diner encounter, I got a letter in the mail, Sarah's handwriting shaky on the envelope. Inside, she'd written 3 pages, her words raw and uneven. She apologized, said she'd been wrong, that she'd let Greg's sudden attention blind her. "You were my dad, Mike," she wrote, and I threw it away. She was in therapy now, working 2 jobs, trying to rebuild. She didn't ask for money, just a chance to talk. I sat on my cabin porch, the letter heavy in my hands, the lake still before me. Part of me wanted to call her, to bridge the gap, but the scars ran deep. I'd given her my heart once, and she'd handed it back. I folded the letter, tucked it into a drawer, and let the silence settle. Some doors, once closed, stay shut. I walked back to my life, alone but whole.